But I'd say the most important thing is that you have to believe in what you're doing. That they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And so the passion has to be there, the commitment, and it's gonna get hard because there are so many small businesses out there. It's like mind-boggling.
Welcome to Securing the Bag, the Roots exclusive series that's all about work, entrepreneurship, and the secrets to success. Today, our guest is Ms. Irene Smalls, the founder and CEO of Literacise. Welcome.
So glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Part of your business, you have children's books, a children's book publishing company, but before you had done that, you had published books in the industry before with major publishers. So what did you feel that the industry was missing that you needed to go out on your own?
Well, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted more control, and because very much of what you publish is what the editors decide they want to publish. And what you want to publish isn't necessarily what they want to publish. And so I had really thought deeply about going around, I visited classrooms all over the world, with 300,000 presentations in terms of just lots and lots of kids, lots and lots of parents. And the one thing I remembered most of all was I was in a classroom, this little boy asked me, you have any questions? And he said, yes. He said, why did white people do everything? And I said, baby, white people didn't do everything. They wrote most of the books and they put themselves in those books. And that remark really stuck in my heart, because I thought it was important, number one, that this baby should feel empowered, this young black boy should feel empowered about who he is and what he is, and also about all the achievements and accomplishments that black people have made in this country.
So you're doing something a little different with your business. I mean, you're not just providing books, but you're also providing tips for parents in terms of sleep safety and things like that. Why did you feel like that was an important element to add?
Because it's all related. The idea of pedagogy is teaching, but what are you teaching to? You're teaching to a biological entity. You're teaching to a brain. You're teaching to a body. And children learn better when they're healthy. They learn better when they've had enough sleep. And so the idea of putting the two together made total sense, because the idea of trying to get children up to grade level, and as you know, you're aware of the academic achievement gap and the COVID learning loss and the summer slump, all of the issues that children face going into school. And I'm saying, let's use the best science there is. Let's not just say, I'm going to teach. On that, what am I going to teach it to? What's the best method? Is it multisensory? Is it experiential? What are the learning styles of the children? Some children learn better from looking at things, some children learn better from doing things, some children learn better from hearing. And so you begin to use the science of how the brain works best to maximize and try to minimize these academic achievement gaps and problems that black children are having in schools.
So I don't believe this by looking at you, but you are a grandma.
Oh yes, very much so. 3 times.
That is amazing.
Yes, thank you.
But the industry is constantly changing, and the things that our doctors and our teachers are telling us that our kids need are constantly changing. Mm-hmm. And so how does your experience influence the work that you do? How do you stay on top of what's new, what kids need to be learning and doing and things like that?
Well, I've always been interested in science. So I read, science, Scientific America, Science Daily, Science.com. I'm always reading, scientific articles. And the thing I love about scientific articles is because they're not trying to sell you anything.
Okay.
It's research. And so what you can do is read that research and then see how it applies to your life and how to use it most effectively.
One of the things that struck me about your book that I really love is that a lot of times with children's books, you either only see the mom, or if it's a book about maybe a dad, which is very rare, you don't always see a mom and dad together. And I was really blown away by the fact that you did have a happy mom and a happy dad together with their baby. Was that something that you did intentionally?
It was almost subconscious. When I grew up in Harlem in the 1950s, most black families were 2 parents. And as I said, Harlem was a great place. There was no crime. We never locked doors. I mean, literally, we'd play hide and seek in people's apartment in a 6th-floor tenement. You have never played hide and seek until you've done it in a 6th-floor tenement, because what you do is you run in, jump under the kitchen table, or go in the back closet, and these people would come home and all these kids are tucked under their tables, and they just ignore us and go on about their business, because we were all the community's children. And so in terms of what I experienced growing up was 2-parent black families. And so subconsciously, that's the way I put things on the page.
So I read an interview with you where you gave some advice, and I'm going to read it to you. You said, make sure you are filling a market need and not your own ego. Have a unique point of difference to your product or service. As someone who wants to enter the industry that you're in, how can they make themselves stand out as an author or publisher?
Well, what they always say, and I remember this, is that stick the pen in your own blood. I mean, a writer writes truth. And so you have to be willing to really be naked on that page, emotionally and psychically. So you dip the pen in your own blood, and then you put it on the page, and again, write your truth. And then you begin to think about marketing and, you know, market size and niches and all these other kinds of things. But what you find, though, is that the truth that you have, that specificity, is universal. And so the things that motivate you, that hurt you, that make you cry, that make you laugh, are the things that, guess what? The market will respond to as well.
So lots of people have business ideas, but not very many people can get them off the ground. You are a successful business owner, so I would love to know if you have 3 pieces of advice you would give someone who wants to start a business, maybe not even necessarily in publishing, but any kind of business idea.
What I would say is make sure you have enough money, you know, because it takes, the average small business fails within 5 years. And they say you should have a year to 2 years of basic living expenses put away so that when it gets a little rocky along the way in terms of developing, you know, brand recognition, people know who you are, you can cover those kinds of things. But I'd say the most important thing is that you have to believe in what you're doing. That they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And so the passion has to be there, the commitment, and it's going to get hard because there are so many small businesses out there. It's like mind-boggling. You know, it's a lot more complex than it used to be. But I'd say it starts with the passion. It starts with having enough money to live, and also, you know, utilizing the elements that are, you know, really freely available. Data, you know, social media, kinds of things that really can push your business to the successful stage.
And do you think that those tips, is there anything extra that people of color need to be aware of? Is there something different when you're trying to get into the game as a person of color or a woman of color particularly?
Well, I think that you have to understand always that the odds are not exactly stacked in your favor. And in terms of credibility, that, you know, they'll look into your face as a black woman or a black man, and already, again, this is where education comes into play because, you know, we all been indoctrinated. That when I grew up in Harlem in the 50s, the standard reading text in the entire United States was Fun with Dick and Jane. There were no black people. There was nobody but a blonde, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed family that lived in the suburbs in a house with a white picket fence and a dog named Spot.
Of course. Yes.
And so, you know, that orientation has been something that we all have. You know, so we all carry that baggage. So even when someone is looking at you, all of that is operating in the back of their mind. So you have to recognize that. You know, therefore you have to come prepared. And if anything, you have to be over-prepared. And also, you have to be more creative.
Oh my goodness, well, I had such a great time meeting you, Irene. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing on behalf of all parents. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It is very much appreciated.